Can you hear me?
Hi, Charles.
Hey, Joe.
How are you, sir?
I'm well, and you, sir?
It's nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
Where are you located?
Just north of Dallas, Texas.
Okay, wonderful. It's good times down there in Texas with all this baseball going on.
Absolutely.
Are you a baseball fan?
I follow the Rangers a little bit.
Okay,
Not as much as I used to.
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, it's great to meet you, and I want to kick off our conversation with what we've lived through for the last 3.5 years, going through the pandemic. How did you get through it, and how did it change things for you, if it did?
Well, there's two aspects to it, personally and professionally. I've had COVID twice, been vaccinated as well. Uh, the last time I had it, I went to the hospital. I wasn't feeling good over the weekend. Went to the hospital Monday morning. They said, "Yeah, you got COVID. Take acetaminophen, and your vitals look good. And if it gets worse, come back." I went and bought a bottle of acetaminophen, took it, and by 5 o'clock, the fever was gone, and I was bored for the next 4 days on quarantine. So I've not had it bad, but I've had friends that have died from it.
Yeah.
So it's been serious. It was a very serious flu epidemic. I lost my grandmother on my father's side to the flu epidemic of 17.
Yeah.
So of course I never knew her. I wasn't born until 30 some odd. He was 3 years old.
Yeah.
So we've seen it before. Professionally, when they put the lockdown in, everybody worked from home. We went through the trouble of setting things up so everybody could work from home.
Yeah.
The only people that came in were Michael, my videographer, because he likes his big fancy machines and big screens for all the video stuff he does, and myself. So it was just the two of us rattling around in the office for about 3 weeks. And then they started to come back, but still, most of my people work at least a day or two a week from the house now. So it's changed things. Uh, we haven't had to worry about expansion of office space as much because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's changed. It's made our disaster recovery much simpler.
Yeah.
Because now we just don't come into the office.
Right. Right.
If the tornado hits the office tonight, we don't miss a beat.
Yeah.
We just work from the house. It's all
Yeah.
in the cloud.
Yeah.
It's all backed up in multiple locations. Our software vendor smart enough that if he gets hit with ransomware on his server, he just turns on his backup server.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. No big deal.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. So we're in good shape. So the COVID has changed how we do things, but it's not hurt us.
Yeah.
If anything, it's made us more agile rather than less.
Yeah. So on paper, you're an author, you're a CPA, a CEO, but I'm curious, if we break down what you do, get to the brass tacks, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. One of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I solve problems
Okay. So you're like a
for my
superhero.
for my employees and for my clients.
Okay.
That's what I do. I solve problems.
So let's take you back to the third grade. What was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Spider-Man.
That's good. That's definitely. So you're a Vietnam vet, and I'm curious, take me back to where you were born and raised and how the specific seeds in you became who you are to get into finance, to write, to get in the military. How did all that happen?
Well, I grew up in Iowa, Midwestern boy. Was born in University Hospital in Iowa City, Iowa. Like James T. Kirk, he works in outer space, but he's from Iowa.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. I grew up in a family business. We have a tradition of citizen soldiers in our family going back to the Revolutionary War. So when I graduated from high school at 16, I'd skipped a year. I was too damn smart for my own good. Didn't want to go to college. I was sick of school. So I joined the Marine Corps. If you're going to join, you might as well join the toughest, right?
Yeah.
So I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, 2 years overseas, including a combat tour in Vietnam, which changes you.
Yeah.
Came back, was stationed in Kansas City, met my wife. She was 10 years older than I was and had 5 children, and I married her at 21. She was 31. I claim insanity, but we were married for 45 years before she passed. So it worked. I don't recommend it for everybody, but I've learned not to second guess anybody's marriage. If it works for you, it works for you. Nobody expected mine to last.
Yeah.
So it did. It was a good marriage. It wasn't perfect. It was good. I learned to do what I was told. Old Chinese proverb, man who say he mastered own house, also lie about other things. So, Ruth ran the household, and I miss her terribly. When I got out of the military, I found that business did not value my military experience. Mm-hmm. Even though I was a computer programmer and systems engineer with some substantial expertise, they just didn't think that my military experience applied to business because they hadn't been there. And I find it true to this day. If you haven't been there, you don't understand. You don't understand what the military does for people, brings to the table, what military experience is good for, the discipline, the mission, the sense of self that's engendered in military personnel that brings wondrous things to business. And I hire them wherever I can. Mm-hmm. That people who aren't there don't understand. Yeah. So I figured I'd get my credentials, went to college, was motivated. I mean, I graduated from high school with a D average. I got my bachelor's with honors in 2 years and my master's a year later. MBA sat for and passed my CPA exam while I was still in graduate school. Wow. I was motivated.
Yeah.
And went to work for Texas Instruments. Spent 15 years in the corporate arena. Realized I was never going to get to the top because I don't have the political skills. I'm unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So in my early 40s, Ruth and I started our own company. I was CPA, hung out my own shingle, and became a CPA and had a payroll sideline in the business. Worked with a lot of small businesses, grew it. About 10, 12 years ago, sold off the accounting practice to my partner who I'd taken on, kept the payroll because I enjoy the payroll side, and continue to grow it to this day. It's the reason I became a U.S. Tax Court Practitioner.
Yeah.
To be able to fight the IRS more effectively.
Yeah.
There's about, if you don't know what a U.S. Tax Court Practitioner is, it's a non-attorney who's licensed to practice in the U.S. Tax Court.
Okay.
I have a bar card from the U.S. Tax Court.
Okay.
I'm counselor. I'm able to represent people in court. There's about 200 of us in the country.
Wow. Okay.
So lawyers don't particularly like us, but because we're practicing law without a license, but it's legal.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in Kansas City, and your story resonates with me because my dad was born in Brooklyn, raised in Long Island, and wanted nothing more than to get out of the house that he lived in. So he joined the Air Force and ended up at Richards Gebauer and got married, met my mom, and here we are.
So, when did he get married? Did he get married at Richard Gebauer?
No, he was there was a church in Midtown that he got married at. It was the big Catholic church on 31st and Broadway. Redemptorist.
I got married at Richard Gebauer Air Force Base at the chapel.
Wow, you did really?
1970.
Wow. Yeah, I was born in 72, so it's still intact. They turned it into kind of a NAFTA hub for a while, and they kind of have some loose things. So I'm curious, did you like Kansas City?
I love Kansas City.
Okay. People tend to. What'd you like the best about it?
It was a small, big town.
Yeah, agreed.
You could get everything there, but you didn't have the overwhelming mass of people that you had at that time in Chicago or Los Angeles or New York or whatever. It still is that way. I've been back numerous times. Um, and I just like that. The winter's a little more than I like, uh, but it's not as bad as where I grew up in Iowa.
Yeah.
So it's just a very pleasant place to live. It was then, and still is, just seems to me, and Midwestern, and the rivers and the hills, and yeah, it's a nice place. I always enjoyed Kansas City.
Yeah, it's great. So let me ask you this. Who's been a hero for you in your life?
Oh, Chesty Puller, the most decorated U.S. serviceman,
Yeah.
who was a Marine general. Um, and I'm not much of a hero worshiper.
Yeah.
I don't like people, but I like individuals.
Yeah. I get it. Well said.
So, there's a lot of, I read a lot of business books, and there's some good authors, and I follow some of those. Um, but yeah, no, I was a family man, and fairly private person. Ruth and I lived our own life.
So speaking of business books and motivators, and you're very accomplished as a businessman, if you can meet anybody alive out there, whether it's the realm of business or otherwise, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Uh, oh, and I've forgotten his first name. Forbes, Malcolm's kid.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, um,
I know what you're talking
really
about.
like to. I'd really like to find out why he sold the magazine to the Chinese, but because I was a Forbes follower for many years. Um, Again, I'm not much of a hero worshiper, but I'd love to sit down with Tom Peters and talk books with him,
Yeah.
because he's probably my favorite business author.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, there's a lot of people I'd love to meet with, but there's nobody that is overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure. So, you've obviously had a lot of gas in your tank over the years, a lot of inspiration, a lot of motivation. What has that been for you every day? To wake up every day, to do the job that you do, to accomplish what you want to get done? What has been that motivation for you?
I like what I do.
Yeah.
It's fun. I've got a great staff. I've got, for the most part, great clients. There's a few, but there's always a few.
Yeah. Yes, there is.
So I enjoy coming to work. Uh, my job is to make my people's life easier, make it more effective, make it more profitable for all of us. Um, they're the business is going to them when I pass. Uh, they help make it. They deserve it. My children aren't interested in the business, and I don't believe in leaving wealth to heirs. Wealth is what you earn. Inherited wealth to me is strange.
Yeah.
If the government said we're going to implement 100% estate tax, it really wouldn't bother me.
Right.
Okay, because hell, I'm dead. I don't care.
Yeah. You don't have to deal with it.
Exactly. So, yeah, I like what I do. I like the people I work with. I've been in this business now for over 30 years. And I'm at a point in my life where, I don't have to be here at 8:30 every morning.
Yeah.
If I don't show up till 10, the place runs just fine without me, as it should.
Yeah, you've earned that right. So, along this path here, you have clients, you have people that you touch. What's been one of the best responses, fan letters, client responses you've ever gotten? One that puts a smile on your face.
It's not so much of a smile, but um, shortly after, we'd been in business not too long, and my eldest daughter died of cancer. And I was a basket case.
Yeah.
And it took me a few months to get my head out of my ass. And when I did, I looked at the work I'd been doing and it was garbage. And I apologized to my clients as I fixed things and got it right. Not one of them, not one ever complained.
Wow.
I was blown away by how supportive my clients were of me in when I was beat up. So
That probably helped you heal a lot, right? Just having
it
that.
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I realized that, it went a long way. It kind of renewed my faith in, human nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to that kid, maybe before you got married in the chapel at Richard's Gebower. Okay. That version of you runs into you in a dream tonight. You can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom that you've accumulated over this lifetime. What advice do you give that younger version of you?
Invest more money. I taught high school for 5 years part-time, which would probably send my high school teachers spinning in their graves. But I taught at the local high school. First period every day, I taught intro to business until Ruth had her stroke. It was my way of giving back. I did it for free, and then I'd come into work, and I preached that to them day in and day out. Just you're working at McDonald's, take $10 a week, put in a savings account. You'll retire wealthy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Compound interest. It's a
Absolutely.
wonderful thing.
Yeah. Certainly is. So of all of the things that you've done and accomplished and seen and been through, what are you the proudest of?
The most valuable, important thing I ever did in my life was marrying Ruth. Pure and simple, bar none. I mean, I'm proud of my military service. I'm proud of the business I've built. I'm proud of my education. I'm proud of my being a tax court practitioner. I'm proud of being a business owner. But the most important, most valuable thing I ever did was marrying Ruth, bar none.
Right on. Well, I could tell that by the way that you were explaining and describing things earlier on. That was very, very evident. So everyone out there, there's all these bubbles of people that know you and have this version of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What is your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm just Charles. I'm just, I'm a fairly smart guy. I'm a nice guy. Uh, I'm a private person. I don't socialize a lot. I don't go out. I don't go drinking. I quit drinking. I quit smoking. Uh, so I don't have a lot of vices anymore. Uh, but I'm a nice guy. You're nice to me. I'll be nice to you.
Yeah.
I'm generous to a fault. Uh, and people take advantage of me because of that. And, that's okay too. Because if they need it that bad, well, I'd probably give it to them anyway. So,
But at the end, but at the end of the day, isn't it more important to be a nice guy instead of being hard because you're supposed to protect yourself against the idiots out there?
I think so.
I do too.
I'm very happy with who I am, and I don't have a problem living with myself at all. So I have a few regrets, but not many. Okay. And mostly they're of omission rather than commission. So yeah, I'm very comfortable in my skin. And I think that's the most important thing you can do is be content with who you are.
Absolutely. Charles,
If you're not, fix it. I mean,
Right.
do whatever you need to do to fix it.
yeah, right. I agree. I agree. So, Charles, if anyone out there wants to hire you, learn more about you, reach out to you, where's the best place to go?
We're on the web at getpayroll.com. My email is cjr@getpayroll. And if they just need an answer to a question, 972-353-0000. Ask for Charles.
Charles, you're a titan, man. Thank you for being raw. Thank you for being open. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with everything.
My pleasure. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, sir. Take care.